Good afternoon, good morning, good night. It's November. I almost said it's December. It's November 12th, 2017. The Knicks went 2-1 this week, and LeBron's talking junk. Cheese just left. Hey, let's talk Knicks.
Let's do it.
What's going on?
How's everybody doing? We're a lot of basketball talking Knicks guys. I'm Jake Storielli coming live from Denver. If you hear me heavily breathing, I went up a couple flights of stairs and still haven't recovered. I had to bring my dog. The whole thing was a mess. Kenny,
What's Noodles? First, I want to know what's Noodles' Instagram handle again?
At Noodle the Doodle Dog.
It's for all you
for any
fans.
of the fans. Yeah, check it out. I don't have access to the account. It's just the dog running it. So, but yeah, I had pretty solid weekend. I'm going backwards in life. I bought an Xbox and I gamed all weekend. It was actually pretty delightful. Kenny Poon. We're joined by the Poon Bros again. We got Kenny Poon joining us. Ken, how was your weekend, babe?
It's not great, man. I've been sick for the last, 5 or 6 days. I was supposed to run a half marathon yesterday. Got out of that just by being sick. So take note, anyone out there who's, signed up for a half marathon. If you want to get out of it, just get sick beforehand.
Smart.
Other than that, I spent most of the weekend just like laying on my couch and laying in bed, just watching movies. Saving Private Ryan was on last night. So, had to catch up on that. There were some Knicks games, so I watched those. Living the dream.
Not bad. What about Greggy Poon? How's your weekend? Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day to you as well.
Thank you.
Another good weekend. I didn't watch Saving Private Ryan. I watched Saving Silverman. Another good film. Yeah. What else did I do? I watched the Knicks play. They won a game. And then last night I was on Netflix and there was this new movie. I don't know if it was new. There was just a movie with one of the linemen from The Replacements in it. And I was like, I got to watch this movie.
Nice.
One of the worst movies ever. But
oh, yeah. I mean,
since the selling point was like, it's one of the linemen from The Replacements, it's going to be bad. But I was like, I still got to see it.
Which one was it?
Yeah, I was going to say.
I'm a son of a bitch? I'm a son of a bitch? Is that good?
I'm a son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll start out with a few some bitches, and that's how we're talking Knicks this week. And I guess the real some bitch, Cheese, our buddy Mindaugas Kuzminskis, waived by the team. What do last year he was 15 minutes a night, 6-2-1. I don't know. It's kind of some mixed emotions. I mean, we're not demoralized, but what do we think, Ken?
I mean, the big thing about Cheese was like, I liked him as a person. He was happy and stuff, and like he was good hanging out with KP. Like they were boys. So that's the big thing for me as a player. He. Sometimes last year he looked like he was a real player in this league. He would make a bunch of threes, get to the hoop, dunk on people a couple times, and then sometimes he just looked like he had absolutely no idea how to play basketball. We're at the point this year where we have like a lot of guys who know how to play basketball, so Kuz kind of got pushed back. But I know coming in this summer there was a lot of kind of excitement because he went off a little bit at the FIBA Euros. And I know he dunked on Billy. He dunked on a couple people and had just a great time there. I think he averaged 15 points a game there, so and shooting 36% from three. And I mean, I know it's a shorter three, but still, it's what you like to see from a guy like that, like a potential stretch four. So, I like him. I wish him the best moving forward, and sorry to see him go.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Good guy. Cheese, always smiling. But smiling doesn't make you good at basketball, unfortunately. And like we said, like Kenny, I mean, I could just repeat everything that Kenny said.
Yeah.
Last year, you would see him do a good job sometimes. And then on his off nights, you were just like, I've never seen anyone play worse than this guy. You thought he was a shooter, but he really wasn't a shooter. Shot 32.1% from three last year. which is not good for a shooter. It's probably below league average, I think. And I got a good one for you. Played 2 minutes this year. And PER minus 41.87.
That's not bad.
Those were a sad 2 minutes, man. Like
he just got the ball and was like, I need to score a point right now. I have to. This is the only time I'm ever gonna get in the game. They're gonna cut me. And he was right. He didn't score, so they cut him. Sorry to see you go. You're a good guy, Cheese. Come back as soon as we get rid of Ron Baker.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, those are right on. Those are going to be a fun 2 years. Yeah, it was funny. I mean, he used to finish some games for the team last year, which was almost unbelievable. But it was the games when he was playing kind of dynamic. So we'll dive into the week.
I just want to throw one more thing out there. Is like he was a little older than people thought because like he just looks like he's like 15 years old, but he's actually I think 27 or 28. So he's just a little older than everyone else, and like he'll by the time he's winding up his prime, which he's in right now, averaging the 14 minutes a game last year. Everyone else is going to be hitting their peak, so it's not as bad of a cut from that perspective as a lot of people think.
Yeah, and also the other options of people to cut were Ramon Sessions, pretty much only Ramon Sessions.
Yes.
But the thing is, we've as much as we've said bad things about Ramon Sessions, we've agreed that he's looked like a backup point guard. So once you have him as your number 3 point guard, that's like a pretty solid number 3 point guard, to be honest. And
Ramon Sessions great in the third point guard role.
Yes. Bad in the number 1 point guard, great in the number 3 point guard. Other options to cut. Joakim Noah, can't possibly cut him. Makes way too much money. Who's the other guy? Ron Baker. Be him too bad of a contract. If they didn't give Ron Baker the player option for next year, he very well may be the one to be gone. But they did. So if they cut him, they'd have to pay him that full $4 million plus the $4 million he's owed this year. So they didn't do that. So eating $3 million for Cheese it was the financial way to go.
Yeah, plus, I mean we could bring that up almost every episode. It's a tough one, but Baker low key has the worst contract on the team. I know Noah's is awful, but he's a player coach. But Baker, man, that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, and then also you need to have the good third point guard because our starting point guard is 45 years old and injury prone. So it's good to have him as the third string instead of Ron Baker. So I agree. Cheese was the right one to go, I guess. I'm not too attached to Ramon Sessions, but I understand the decision.
How you just described Jarrett Jack just insulted me to my core. It felt like he is, if not an all-star, I don't know. No, Jarrett Jack will never be near any game where the best players play. That sounded even worse. All right, we buy Cheese. We'll hey, if nobody takes you, we'll sign you to the Westchester Knicks. I don't know, man. We like you. No bad feelings. Let's dive into the week a little bit, right? So we had 3 games. Excuse me. We opened with the Nuggets. Big comeback. The Garden was rocking again. Great times. We play the now dominant Eastern Conference powerhouse, the Orlando Magic, and they beat us without Zinger. So that's kind of what it was. Without Zinger and with Kuzminskius. So, and then we play the Kings and get a nice little W. KP's still been knocking out of the park. And my thought process right before the show, because we were kind of talking about, hey, what are we going to talk about this show? What are kind of some of the low-key things? What are some of the big things? And I thought it was funny that it was a 2-in-1 week, and it just kind of felt like, well, yeah, that's kind of what we do now. Like it was coming into the season, we didn't know if we'd have any of those weeks really. And this was just kind of like, yeah, we had a nice comeback game. And then, yeah, we took care of business, and we lost our game without KP. So, Kenny, Greggy, what do you guys think on the week as a whole?
if we lose a game that KP doesn't play, like it didn't even happen. So I'm not worried about that as far as I'm concerned. We went 2-0 this week and beat the two teams that we needed to beat. And so I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, it felt pretty normal to me, to be honest, after the 3-1 week last week. I know you said we played the Nuggets. It was actually the Hornets. Both another one of those Ets teams. So same thing to us.
Yeah, they're both in the league.
Yeah,
Sure.
they both play basketball, and they both lost to the Knicks, so they're both the same.
No, it was. I watched Jokic play this week for the Nuggets for the first time, and that dude's good. That dude's like really good. This is talking Jokic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Porzingis good. Other Knicks, okay. Overall, good week. I mean, we've talked and said, who have we really beaten so far? But we're not losing to bad teams. The worst team we lost to was the Magic this week without Porzingis. And it looked like we could beat them for the majority of that game. We were ugly game. 23 or something turnovers. Just start to finish, just passing the Magic the ball. Team is just lost without Porzingis, but we're good with Porzingis, so that's what really matters.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got it, Ken.
And that's kind of the point that I've been harping on with you guys is that, you know, I know we're feeling good, and we're I think 2 games over 500 now. But if you look at the standings in our schedule, we beat the Nuggets are the only team we beat that is currently over 500. So, but like Greg said, we're beating the teams that we're supposed to be beating. So, you know, it's you know, nothing against what the Knicks are doing. It's just let's not get ahead of ourselves with thinking that, you know, this is going to sustain. And this week will be a good test of that with a couple of very good teams coming in.
Let's get ahead of ourselves. Why not?
Agreed. I was going to say the same thing.
Without Tom here, I have to be the one that kind of knocks us down a peg. When Tom gets back, you'll see. I'm gonna go full homer on you guys.
Okay? We will look forward to that on Talking Knicks. I think a couple things to note. Kind of the then I guess it'll kind of start off our layups this week, but it's also discussed in the week that was. The bench mob is kind of being what we thought they could be. Like we didn't know Zinger. Well, we hoped Zinger was going to take this kind of leap, but we thought it'd probably be more inconsistent. Man, the bench mob in all the games this week. I mean, I've been McDermott, Lance Thomas, O'Quinn, you know, Frankie Smokes, and in the games this week, I think Dougie Fresh had a good plus minus in every game. Kyle O'Quinn. You know, Frank can kind of turn into the starter the nights he's playing well, so I don't know if you want to put him or Jack there, but the bench mob, the Knicks depth, that's we had to wave cheese. The bench mob doing their thing. What do you guys where are you guys on that? We like that, right?
I'm a really, really big Doug McDermott fan. He just looks good out there. Every time he shoots it, you think it's going to go in. He hasn't. The funny thing is that he hasn't even been like knocked down from 3, which is what we would think and what most NBA fans would expect from Doug McDermott. But he hasn't really been doing that. And instead, he's been knocking it down from the mid-range. He's been moving well off the ball, doing a great job. Looks like a good contributor. He'll be helping the Knicks all year, hopefully.
So to go along with that, I got some stats for you because I'm a stats guy now. This week, Doug McDermott in the last 3 games, shooting 64% from the field and 66.7% from 3. So,
Yeah,
you know, that's what you want from him.
I was just looking at those stats too, Kenny. 6 for 9 from 3 this week. And the comeback we're talking about against the Hornets, I mean, he was a huge part of that. He had a couple pulls. He put up 20 points that night. And so this kind of comes back to what we were – I forget if it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, but we were talking about what do we expect from Doug McDermott. And I think it was a question of, you know, this guy for a couple years, I guess he was kind of below his expectations. He never really got the consistent playing time. I mean, do we think this guy can be like a starter? Do we think he's going to start a couple games for us? He was – I mean, so he has that 20-point game. On the week, he averaged 11.3, which I think is tied for fourth on the team scoring-wise this week. Are we capped off at Doug McDermott being like a pretty good bench option?
Yeah, I'm for that. I think the obvious comparison is Kyle Korver, but I mean Kyle Korver's way better shooter, not than the 67%. Apparently,
Right.
I'm out here saying that he hasn't been knocked down. Kenny Sandy shooting 67% on the week. He was 0 for 2 last night though, so I'm right if you think about it.
And he's getting really good looks. Like I know what you're saying, Greg. Like he's had a couple ones that he's been wide open and he hasn't made yet, which I don't know. It's basketball. You can't really harp on that. But yeah, Dougie Fresh. And
well, the thing that I love kind of watching is he's been getting a lot of like backdoor cuts, which is just that, you don't see that enough anymore where like guys are losing their guys on backdoor cuts and getting easy layups. And like, that's great to see. And like, he's hitting his jumpers, but also he's playing hard on D, which was a question mark coming in. Like people didn't know, like everyone thought he was a minus defender, and he's still not a great defender, but like he's trying hard and he's like staying in front of his man. So really, really can't knock the effort there.
I'll be interested to see how the season develops. If before the season we were talking about Courtney Lee potentially being traded. I think we're away from that. By the way, Courtney Lee 9 assists against the Hornets, which pretty nice, Courtney. That's
20 points last night or 2 nights ago, whenever it was.
Yeah, so he's playing pretty solid.
Of time.
He's the other one averaging 11.3 points this week. And yeah, KOQ doing his thing. And hey, the other topic that we brought up was Lance Thomas in previous weeks. He's found a serious role on this team, and defensively, when you start thinking about guys in the league that we always talk about Roberson on Oklahoma City, who's one of the best defenders in the league, but sometimes it's tough to watch him out there offensively. When I'm a UConn fan, so I get tough on the Duke guys often. I didn't like Lance too much, and then he kind of had that nice season where he really became part of the team, and then he was injured, banged up last year. But when he's right, like I am enjoying our play from the 3 position when it's Dougie Fresh on offense and Lance on defense.
Lance Thomas is the Knicks' longest tenured player. How does that hit you?
Boom.
I'm saying, but I agree completely. Watching down the stretch when Hornacek has him and Frank out there on defense, like just causing havoc, like that's fun to watch. Like I'm a defense guy, and those guys, they get up on you and they make your life miserable, and it's defense leads to offense, so. It's good stuff to see out there.
Lance Thomas DNP CD last night, and we won by 30. So,
yeah, it's what's going on there? Is Hornacek still feeling things out? Is it just if the guys before Lance Thomas are playing well, then it's like, oh, sorry, Lance, we don't need you tonight. Like, where's Lance at?
It looks like a defense thing. Like if we need somebody to actually do a good job on defense, you can go in, Lance. But if we think we can handle it without you, then we'll probably – this was the first time we've just outscored an opponent on the season, I think. Other than all the other wins, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I mean.
Right.
I mean like an actual absolute destruction. We're going to have to edit that since I said the same thing like 8 times in a row.
I like that.
We buried the Cavs the first game. Remember that? But yeah, it's a weird spot we're in right now. And someone who hasn't gotten mentioned yet on this pod is Michael Beasley. And I think he was another guy that people were like, maybe they should just cut him because like, who knows what he's really doing. And he's been, very hit or miss, but him and Lance Thomas are kind of playing the same position in an offense defense way where Beasley would go out there and just score like 10 straight points, but like not really do much else, and then sometimes he just won't be able to make a shot. But Lance will go out there and he'll be consistent, and he'll knock down an open three if he gets one, and he'll play hard on defense. So it's just kind of whether you're looking for, hitting it big with Michael Beasley out there, or just getting the consistent minutes out of Lance Thomas. So we'll see what Hornacek does moving forward with that.
Yeah, Beasley's the only one we discussed it last week a little bit. His role isn't really defined yet. Like there's, and I think that's okay now because it still could be a good thing. Like he could be the Knicks are looking bad tonight. Hey, throw Beasley in there, just kind of let him do his Beasley thing, kind of 0.4 Ben, a D+ Ben Simmons. So yeah, we'll see how that develops. And man, the only guy that we really haven't mentioned, I mean, Cantor and Tim Hardaway did kind of exactly what you expect. Cantor was like 13 and 11. Tim Hardaway Jr. was 16, 5 and 2. Man, Kristaps goes 34 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 blocks on another week. We keep saying it's not sustainable, but he's sustaining. He's sustaining, Jerry. I mean, I feel like Costanza. I don't know. Like, what is this dude a 30-point per game guy? I know I'm kind of going to miss. Did someone just kill someone? I know I'm going crazy on the kind of getting out of order. So
let me jump in there, Jake. Take a rest. Take a breather for a minute. But I will say, like, after he sat out the Magic game and he came in the Kings game, and like he missed his first couple shots, and I'm like, all right, so he's gonna come back to earth now, and like this is gonna be the actual him. And then he just made like 4 straight threes and ended up scoring 34 points in the first 3 quarters. It's like, all right, well, maybe this is him. Maybe he's just gonna go for 30 a night. And if that's the case, great, because like he's not getting a ton of help from Tim Hardaway Jr. He's getting much more than he expected from the Doug McDermott's and Enes Kanter and those guys. But the number 2 fiddle was supposed to be Timmy Hardaway Jr. and he just hasn't been kind of up to snuff yet this year. So to the extent that Kristaps can keep this up and like then we really don't need that much out of anyone else, that'd be great.
Yeah, and he could keep it up because who else are we going to pass the ball to? Like Kenny said, Tim Hardaway Jr. is the other option, and I have some mean things to say about Tim Hardaway Jr. that I'll save for later maybe. I love the guy. I don't know, maybe I'm like indifferent at this point, but because of his contract, I love him. Love you on the team. I'll love you for the next 4 years. But I mean, keep giving Kristaps the ball, and then I guess he'll keep being 7'3" and shooting over people.
And that's the key.
Yeah. So I mean, not a lot of players have figured that out yet. Kristaps is a revolutionary. You just got to be taller than everybody and shoot it over them.
I mean, I can't tell you guys how bad I am at being 7'3". It's
I mean, I can agree to that. You're very bad at being 7'3". But that's the thing about what he does. It's like that makes it sustainable is, I mean, occasionally he'll have just like a crazy post move or something like that. But like a lot of his shots, he's just squaring up and shooting over people. And like he can just do that forever. So what's to say he's not going to keep doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I think Marvin Williams gave him a tough time, but when he had a guy like Dwight Howard on him, that was game over. You can't put a center. Like if the Knicks go small and put Porzingis at center, put their 7'3" guy at center, then
going small, yeah.
Then you got a mismatch no matter. I mean, you have a mismatch no matter who is guarding him. But if the other team's actual center is guarding him, then it's like a serious mismatch.
Yeah, and you got it, Ken.
So 2 things to go along with that, because like that's what we saw at the end of the Hornets game was they went small and they had Porzingis at 5, which Hornacek said we're probably not going to see that much of. But like Dwight Howard was trying to guard him at the 3-point line, and he ended up hitting that game-tying 3 and like scoring a bunch of points down the stretch. So it was like you can't do that. And then the next test was the next game against the Kings. He went up against Willie Cauley-Stein, who everyone's like, all right, this is a 7-footer who can guard the perimeter. is probably going to be able to like do something to stop him, and he just didn't. So like, what can you do?
I don't know, and that's I was gonna say, kind of going heavier into the grand scheme of thing, which I don't know if it's an end of year podcast, but it's long term. It's going to be interesting to see if he comes to grips with playing center or who they match up with him, because I mean, where basketball is at, God, if he's out there at the 5 with a good 4-man, the offense is kind of out of control. So, well, that's something to look forward to in the Knicks. Right now, we'll enjoy what we're doing, and let's segue into our mid-range floaters. We're getting warm. Shoot or shoot. You're in the paint. You don't know if you're going to get to the tin, so throw one up there, babe. Man, we've got Joakim Noah's coming back. Our buddy, again, I say it in an optimistic thing, our player coach. I'm going to keep the glass half full. The guys like him. He's getting paid like a star. He's garbage. but I mean, what do we think? Is this guy going to be kind of in a Beasley position? Like, there's going to be some nights when Hornacek kind of goes to him for a little action, whether it's on defense or moving the ball on offense, or is he going to be a steady part of the rotation? What do you guys think?
I think he's going to be ahead of Willie, just for defensive purposes. But I mean, his defense isn't what it used to be either. But Willie's is bad, and so I think you're not going to see him play right away. To be honest, I think Cantor and O'Quinn have shown that they're very good, and the Knicks have been doing well. So we're not going to mix in a guy who a lot of New York isn't too fond of. Based on what he did last year and his contract, just because of his contract. We're not going to just put him in the game because of that. He was brought in to be a starter. He's shown that he may not be a starter anymore. He's not our best center, not our second best center. So center is one of those positions where you can't just play a bunch of guys, which is why Willie has fallen out of favor too.
And I don't know if you guys saw, but earlier this week Noah had a quote where he was just saying, whatever my role is, I'll accept it, which is nice to hear because I don't foresee him getting many minutes. Like, he's definitely going to be behind, Porzingis, Cantor, and O'Quinn. Like, I see, him coming in if, we need a shot of energy, but like that's what Kyle O'Quinn does too. So, I don't know that he's going to bring that much to the table. And like, at this point in his career, like, I don't know that he's a better rebounder than Cantor or O'Quinn. Maybe he's a better defender on the perimeter than either of those two guys, but I don't know. It's hard to be seen. And, maybe he just comes in just for spot minutes, but honestly, I just don't see him getting a ton of burn at this point in his career.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, because again, this guy has a skill set. This is going to sound kind of dumb, but he's got a skill set that plays well with better players around him. He's a big man who can pass and do some unique things. He really struggled early last year, kind of defensively. Some of the advanced stats were ugly, but he kind of had it back towards the end. Not defensive player of the year, Joakim Noah, if he ever won that award, or if I just made that up on the spot. But he was good. he was first team All NBA one year, right? I don't know. I think it's gonna. I don't know if it's the next 2 weeks, the next whatever it is, back-to-backs. I mean, I think we're going to see a couple 20-minute games out of Noah, just to kind of see what he still has left in the tank, because that could also become a factor in, if we move O'Quinn, if we move Hernan Gomez, if we start looking into trades. It's kind of going to be important to know if Noah can give us a servable 15, 20 minutes a night, or if he plays good basketball with these guys. I mean, we're talking about, if you have him in a lineup with McDermott, Porzingis, Courtney Lee, whoever you want to put out there shooters-wise, he can be a good big man to move the ball and get shooters their good looks. So, I don't know.
So, I'll say that I just don't think that he meshes well with Porzingis at this point, because right now they have Cantor out there, and Cantor requires you to put a defender on him. Noah, I think they just play him like Roberson and like not guard him at all, so it would make it much easier to send doubles. And to this point in the season, Porzingis has been good about passing out when a double comes, but like he's passing out to guys who can shoot because everyone on the team is a threat offensively, and Noah just isn't. So, I just don't know how he meshes. Maybe on a bench group, he can get out there and play some bench minutes, but with Porzingis out there, I don't like the fit.
Jake, to talk about how good he used to be, Joakim Noah is the last Eastern Conference player other than LeBron James to be first team All NBA. So think about that.
It's pretty wild.
And that's how good the Knicks are. They're going to have a first team All NBA center as their number 3, maybe number 4 center going forward. Hey, not bad.
Knicks are peacocking for sure. No, I don't know. I guess I'm slightly more optimistic than you guys. I could see. I don't know with him and Porzingis on defense. I think that's about as much rim protection as you'll see in today's NBA. I think, like you said, I've always loved that Noah's been an energy big guy. Like, he's always going to play his heart out. He's one of the guys that's screaming on the court, hustling. I think you're going to see him and O'Quinn in a couple lineups just for the pure big guy energy rush. But we'll see how it develops. I will be – I don't know. I guess I wouldn't be surprised if he became kind of a part of the rotation because if he's right, Hornacek's kind of proved he's out here to win. So I don't know. That's how I end every statement now. I don't know, and I just hope you guys have a good comment because I'm just babbling. I guess something. Yes. Yes.
I was just gonna say the idea of him and O'Quinn going out there and just being psychos together does sound fun,
right?
I don't know if it's gonna happen, but it sounds fun. So I'm willing to hope that happens.
Yeah. I think that the double center combination you don't see that very much these days. So as much as we like it in theory, I don't know how it would play out on the court.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic about it. I'd like to see it. I'm kind of in the same boat. It'd be fun for a couple minis. I guess something that we kind of haven't discussed and we kind of didn't lay out too much. I mean, what do we think about Porzingis' injury? Do we think that's actually something?
I mean, he went out there and scored 34 points in 3 quarters the day or 2 days after. So you have to believe that it's not anything major. He said that he's going to need surgery in the offseason. So you have to believe that he thinks he could play through it for the entire year, which is good. I mean, never want to have your star player have surgery of any kind, but maybe you get surgery and then you're better. Imagine. Think about that. Kristaps going to come back better next year.
That's what Dennis Smith Jr. said about his surgery, but we'll get into that shortly. The whole injury thing is just, that's nothing. That's a veil. That's the Knicks just shaking their fingers at the NBA, being like, we're going to rest this guy and then pretend he's injured. If you listen to his interview, he was just like, yeah, this is something we're always injured throughout the season. Like people are always playing through injury. And sometimes it's good to just like sit out and not play, which is basically him saying I'm resting. The thing about his elbow is that's not what he set out for. He set out for his ankle injury. And he said like the elbow thing's been going on for like 2 years and it just gets inflamed like after every game. So like he says he thinks it's something that's eventually going to need surgery. So like in the end, I think this was just the Knicks resting him without resting him because you're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the NBA resting rule was not made for the New York Knicks. I don't think that they were too concerned about what the Knicks were going to do on a night-to-night basis. So I'm not sure. I think like if Kristaps just rested, the NBA wouldn't care. I'm pretty sure.
The whole point is that like the NBA wants people who go to games to be able to see like star players. And right now Kristaps is a star player. And like one of their whole big things was if you're going to rest someone, do it at a home game because like then people can go see him other times. Whereas if you go to an away game, you're never going to get that chance again. And like they did the opposite. They had a back-to-back and they played him in the home game and then sat him the next game. So like maybe the NBA wouldn't care, but like they're really pushing the boundaries with that.
I also think it's pretty early in the season for you to be thinking that Kristaps is going to be needing rest. I know it's a back-to-back. You don't want to play every night, but they did extend the season so that there's way less back-to-backs. And I don't really think it was just a resting thing. I think he may actually have a swollen elbow and an ankle thing.
Yeah, I think the thing to watch, and I mentioned it half jokingly, and Greg, you called me out on it, but it'd be interesting to see. I think this becomes a factor if the Knicks season does go south, and then or if Porzingis goes down south. That if we're sneaking up on the final month of the season and the Knicks are out of it or something like that, I could see them pulling the plug and being like, oh yeah, Kristaps, that nagging elbow, we're just gonna deal with it now, something like that. Yeah, as of now, like you mentioned, he went out the other night and got 34. So it's clearly not bothering him as much as other things.
It's like when Melo played the All-Star game and then he was like, I should get surgery on my knee, actually. It could be like that.
Right. And then the final topic, if there's any talking Knicks or talking Yankees followers that have come to talking Knicks, again, we appreciate you. But it used to be funny for me because when me and John Boy would talk, the most important topic for about 2 months from like the All-Star break till September was how good are we? Like, are the Yanks a playoff team? Are they a championship team? Where do they land? Man, you guys have been a little more gung ho than me. I guess Greg, you've been the most gung ho. Like, are our new season expectations like a 7-8 seed, or what?
I don't really have expectations. I'm just rooting for the Knicks to win games. So
wow, hot take.
That's what it is. I mean, it is a hot take based on some of the stuff I've heard from you guys.
Yeah, that's true.
Go Knicks. I think best case scenario is the 7-8 seed, like you said. Before the season, we thought that the Hornets had one of those spots locked up, but seeing what they're doing, it doesn't really look like they do. Pistons are good. Heat don't look very good. So could be those two spots could be open. I also don't believe that the Magic are a real team that's good at basketball. I know they just beat us, but we didn't have Porzingis, and we turned the ball over 1 million times, and they didn't beat us by like a lot.
Good points. I think, like I said before, the only team that we've beaten that is currently over 500 is the Nuggets. I know we beat the Cavs, and like I keep saying this, but like we caught them at the wrong time. Right now they're playing terrible basketball. So like I'm not going to get too excited about it. I think this week is kind of going to be the litmus test. We're going to play a few good teams. We're going to play Cleveland again, Utah, and Toronto. If we come out of this week 2-1, 3-0, then I'll be ready to kind of adjust my expectations.
I think that if we go 0-3 this week, it was just an unlucky week.
Sometimes the shots don't fall.
Yeah, sometimes the ball doesn't go in. And
sometimes the ball doesn't go in.
Yeah. I'm on board. Keeper in the Knicks. What are we? 5-2 in our last whatever. 7-3 in our last 10.
7-3 in our last 10. We're 6-2 at home, 4-3 in the conference. We're 1-3 on the road, and we haven't had like a true road stretch, kind of. So that could be something.
Played a lot of home games.
Yeah, it's I don't know. You're looking at the standings right now in the East. I mean the two things that look really out of place are the Magic, like you mentioned, and the Cavaliers. The Bucks are a little low. Man, I was kind of meh on the Bledsoe trade Milwaukee made. Man, you kind of forget that guy's got some freaky attributes. He's got some long arms. He can really push the ball. Him and Giannis, their first game together, they looked good, and it, like I said, it was their first game together. So that's a little talking Bucks for the fans. But just standing wise, yeah, it's something you can start looking at a little bit. That road thing was just a realization for me, and if they continue to be a 1-3 team on the road, then things are going to level out pretty quickly. Yeah, we'll see. We're rooting for the Knicks to win? ? We've got pick ideas in the back of our head, but yeah, let's ride that beautiful butterfly right now.
And while we haven't beat anyone spectacular, we also haven't lost to anyone like unspectacular. Losses are Celtics, Rockets, Pistons, who have been really good so far this year, Magic without Porzingis, and then the Thunder, first game of the year. They haven't been great, but they do have really, really good players on their team. So maybe the bad thing about those losses is that some of them were really, really big blowouts. Celtics, Rockets, Thunder lost by like 20 each time. So maybe that's a bad sign of where we are. But lose by 1 point, lose by 20 points, it's the same thing at the end of the night. And Knicks win by 1 point, win by 20 points is the same thing. We're trying to do that more. Think about it.
And I think that we've kept coming back to this joke, but in the back of our heads, we throw out the first 3 games with Baker and Sessions. So it's kind of like we're 7-2, right? Is that how it works? But yeah,
we threw out those games, and we threw out the game that KP didn't play. So we're 7-2, right?
We're essentially undefeated.
Yeah.
We're reporting for the undefeated Knicks. And Ken, you mentioned Cleveland coming up, and it's another topic. We didn't know if it was a small thing. We didn't know to lead off the show, end the show, where in the show. Let's talk about this LeBron, Dennis Smith Jr. situation. I'll let you take the rock on this one because I know you're on it.
What is LeBron doing? Like, really, he just played a game. His team is under 500, and like he's coming out and being like, this guy I just played should have been taken by the Knicks. Like, why are you talking about the Knicks, man? But like, I've said this before on the podcast. The Knicks could not take Dennis Smith Jr. He had an ACL tear in high school, and he refused to give them medical records and refused to see the team physician. So like, they couldn't take him. Like, LeBron has a track record of being just a terrible GM. He made the Cavs trade for Anton Jameson, and that completely screwed up their cap situation. He was pissed at the Heat for waiving Mike Miller, and like that was part of the reason he left. And like he's really good about getting his buddies involved. Like he got James Jones brought into a bunch of his teams, but like James Jones doesn't do anything. And apparently like he's Dennis Smith Jr.'s mentor. So like I guess they're boys. So he just figured the need to, throw some shade at the Knicks for no real reason.
Yeah, I what do you? I agree. What are you doing, LeBron? Why are you talking about the Knicks? I'm just gonna repeat everything that Kenny just said again because he nailed it. Just the thing is, the Knicks picked 8th overall too. It's not like they had the first pick and they were the one team that didn't select Dennis Smith Jr. There are 7 other teams that didn't pick Dennis Smith Jr. And the Knicks also beat the Cavaliers by 19. So what's wrong with what we got going on right now? I don't understand.
Yeah, and I get that Dennis Smith Jr. Dennis Smith Jr. has been what you want to see from a rookie on a bad team, right? He's getting good minutes. He's playing pretty well. He's having his moments. His downfall right now are, kind of shooting struggles, which a lot of young guys have when they come into the league. But man, I mean, you called out GM LeBron, which we've talked about off the record many times. Is this on the record? I don't know. But man, we and our a lot of basketball podcasts, which we posted last week, and you all listened to. We were talking about redrafting in this year's NBA draft. And man, I think you can make a pretty, I'm not going to say airtight argument. I guess it depends kind of what you're looking for and where you think their ceiling ends up. You can make a very solid argument that Frank, at this point, was the right pick. And we expected Dennis Smith Jr. to be a lot more NBA ready than, I call him the French boy sometimes. You're looking for a skill set, right? And he's showed this passing ability, creativity. I think I got a laugh out of one of you guys this week. I was hoping I got a laugh out of you guys. Was the biggest thing they said that the game was going to be like too fast for him. Like they didn't know if he had the foot speed, which I was like, how do you? Did you time his 40 or do any shuttles or anything like that? Like what But I mean, he looks like an NBA player right now, which we didn't really expect from the 19-year-old French boy. So
Yeah.
I don't know, LeBron. Get out of here, LeBron.
And Jake, kudos to you because I mean, you said before the season, like this is what we expected from Dennis Smith Jr. Like a very early peak. Like he came in NBA ready, and Dallas is 2-11 now, so like he's getting empty stats. But like if you want to kind of in-depth dive on Frank, our co-correspondent Tom Piccolo has an article out on the alotofbasketball.com, and he gets into a lot of that. But long story short is like he's a very good player, and he's only 19. Like he's younger now than Dennis Smith Jr. was when he started college. So like I really just don't know what LeBron was doing.
Dennis Smith Jr. is also 19, so I'll defend him on that point. So
my bad.
I like the vigor though.
But 2-11 is bad. I'll say that. And it's
hot take. Greg, easy with the hot takes.
It's not like he's averaging 20 points per game. He just scored 20 against LeBron, so LeBron was like, oh, this guy's the best player ever. But if LeBron looked at his actual stats, he's averaging 15 on a 2-11 team as like the second option behind Harrison Barnes, who's also bad. So I don't know. Like, are we gonna – this guy's posting really, really great empty stats. So he's better than the guy on the 7-5 team. They're
not great stats either.
Yeah, his stats aren't that great, and the Knicks are 7-5, which we didn't expect. We expected the Knicks to be bad at the beginning of the year. I think you guys were rooting for the Knicks to be one of the worst teams in the league, and I was just expecting it. But that's not what's happening right now. We look like we're an actual decent team. We were just talking about the playoffs. We were just talking about the 7 seed, not even the 8 seed. So, and that's large because of Frank. Frank, during those 2 big comeback wins, played the entire fourth quarter. Just his defense is elite already. Is it elite? Are we ready to say that?
It comes and goes. Like there's times when he gets beat where it's like that shouldn't happen. But there's more often than not he's just taking James Harden's cookies.
And again, check out our boy Tommy P's article on it because he dives into that as well. But yeah, I don't know, just LeBron. LeBron's kind of a media weirdo, and this is kind of just I'll go fully off the train tracks. The whole Durant thing that happened with all the burner accounts where he was pumping himself up, which is mind-numbing that a world-class athlete has to defend himself on secret Twitter accounts. But the thing that goes ignored with a lot of these guys is like Kevin Durant's whole story was that he spent like his whole childhood at a gym in Baltimore, right? So like, and then these guys become media sensations, but they haven't socialized their whole life. Like I got really mad the other day about LeBron. Like I turned on ESPN and they had a full article on LeBron doing the Arthur Fist thing. That's cool nowadays because Kyrie had a good game. And I was like, at first I was like, oh man, the media is just kind of trying to make a story. And, you know, LeBron's kind of silly in the media. He's just saying like, oh, Kyrie, you know, good, but wish you were here, something like that. And then I was like, what? This is a grown man. Like subtweeting isn't something that like should be acceptable in society. Like, oh, here's another subtweet from LeBron. Buckle up. Like, no, dude, you're a grown up. like what?
I don't know what the dude's doing, man. Because like he's. I'm gonna go off on something's going on here.
Wheels are coming off.
I'm gonna go off on GM LeBron again for a second because like remember last year when like their team was just ridiculously over the cap and he came out and he's like, we need a playmaker. And everyone's like, what the hell are you talking about, man? Like you can't just go out like it's impossible to trade someone with your situation. You can't sign anyone because you have to pay 4 times their salary. Like, what are you talking about? And then Deron Williams just magically like got waived and ended up on the Cavs. So it's just like I don't know what this guy's doing, but like I don't know, man. It's just making me angry to talk about it. One last point on that, I think people were mentioning maybe this was just his parting shots at Phil Jackson for his remarks in his book about LeBron and his quote unquote posse, which is foul language to some. So I'm gonna step back from the mic because I'm just getting heated.
Yeah, and again, I already said this, but I'm going to say it again. There were 7 other teams that didn't pick Dennis Smith Jr. Why? I know the Knicks were the draft pick directly before the Mavericks, but there was other teams. It's not. He basically was like, "Oh, the Knicks are the only team that made a bad draft pick this year," which is a weird thing to say. I don't understand.
And it's super early. Like who? I mean, I've got the draft board up in front of me. Like, you could make an argument for Fultz and maybe like Jonathan Isaac right now, but kind of everyone ahead of him is playing
Your boy
better.
Laurie.
Yeah, the Laurie Markkinen's a stud. And you can make an argument for the guys behind him. Malik Monk had his Garden game. Zach Collins has been playing well. Everybody loves Donovan Mitchell. So like, LeBron, cut the tape.
And Frank is really good. We keep saying that.
Yeah.
But you know what we didn't talk about is Enes Kanter and Kristaps coming out and being like, "This is our guy. What are you talking about? We're all in on this guy," which is what you love to hear.
Yeah, and
Love that.
I've mentioned it a couple times, man. My friends that enjoy the Thunder, and just if you follow Enes on social media, he's like a great locker room guy. He's a guy you love having on your team. He's borderline silly, but he'll also protect you. He's got that like kind of enforcer stuff, and that's where again we'll spin it, I'm sure, in later episodes. But it's finding who fully fits with Porzingis long term. I mean, right now it's fun, but that's a whole nother thing.
So
Ken?
I have kind of 2 last things. One is just to kind of go along with what Greg was saying on how early it is. Like, he's filling up empty stats. Like, this is like, I'm not going to look at any stats at all, but I'm just going to throw this out there because I know Michael Carter-Williams won Rookie of the Year his rookie year playing for the Sixers, and it was just a terrible team. And like Giannis, I think, was also in that class. So it's just being like, oh, like they definitely should have taken Michael Carter-Williams. That was definitely the right choice over Giannis. But like, why are you bringing that up right now? And second thing, I just don't know if maybe like LeBron's trying to do some sort of Jedi mind tricks, and it's like, this is the Knicks, man. What are you doing? Like, is he trying to like create that divide in the locker room and like get the New York media going? Is he trying to divert attention from the fact that his team's under 500? And I don't know. I just don't know what the guy is doing.
I also watched like the last 2 minutes of the Mavericks-Cavs game last night, and Dennis Smith Jr. hit a 3 when they were down 5, cut it to 2, and then he missed a wide open layup when they were down 4 with like 30 seconds left. And when I say like he missed a wide open layup, I mean there was no one guarding him. He got past Jeff Green, had a layup, decided that instead of doing a regular layup, he should do a reverse, and he did it, and then he missed, and then the Mavericks lost the game because of him. So
he's super athletic. He should have dunked it.
Pick him up.
yeah,
We want him if he's blowing games like that. Speaking of blowing games, I guess that segues us into next week pretty much. Ken, you at the tip of the iceberg there. We're, it's still 3 games. We got 2 at home again. We've got Cleveland, Utah, at Toronto. Again, kind of you touched on it. We're tiptoeing around. I guess we're kind of waiting for that moment to go. Greg's kind of half jokingly mentioned that he's in on this team winning and all that. Like, and I feel like I've been ending every show with this, but like a 3-0 week this week, and I'm like, let's go. Like, it would be on. I mean, Utah is one of the best defensive teams in the league. I think that's going to be interesting because right now defensively we're still not there, so it's going to be a push shove. And Cleveland's a coin flip right now, right? Like, you could get the defending champs, or you could get just this garbage team that's showing up most nights for them. And then at Toronto is what it is. I mean, they've been a top 4 team in the East for a while now. they've got a pretty good home court there. Any tidbits? What do you think we're going to see this week?
So, like I said earlier, this is kind of a pivot week for me. Like, I feel like if they can have a good week this week, then I'm gonna start changing my opinion of like what this team can be. Just on a side note for me is like until we got Frank, I didn't realize just how well I realized, but I didn't really put together how many French people there were in the league. Like we played Batum last week, we played Fournier like within the last couple of weeks, and now we're going up against Rudy Gobert, who was one of the people who was defending the pick of Frank when it happened, and Fran Fraschilla said he was a 59% bust potential. So Rudy's cool in my book.
So Kenny is rooting for the Jazz this week.
Kenny's a Jazz fan. It's official.
Rudy is not cool in my book because he's not on the Knicks.
Nice.
And
Strong
I'm gonna say that we don't need a 3-0 week for me to be a believer. Beat the Jazz, I think, and I'm good. 1-2, not ideal, but Cavs and Toronto are both good. 2-1. Then I want you guys on board with me.
I'll be on board with you if we go 2-1.
All right, that sounds good. But I think the Jazz game, we talk about pivot games every week. I think the Jazz game is the pivot game this week because that's the team that we think we should beat. The Raptors have been good. They've had our number for a little bit. They're in our division. They're a good team. But Jazz, I'm not really a Jazz guy. I know our friend Tom is, but he's not here, so he's wrong. And we got to beat the Jazz. That's what I got.
It's kind of funny. We're all like penciling a win against Cleveland right now, which if you said that before the season would have been kind of hilarious. Yeah, we'll see. Something I kind of forgot about because this sounds bad, but over the past decade, you kind of forget the Knicks play at Madison Square Garden. It's like that when that place is rocking, it's awesome. Like I think a very easy argument to say one of the best, if not the best place in sports when it's just out of control. And that's been great to see. But the other side of that, we saw Malik Monk, that's the ultimate, right? You go, these guys work their whole life to get to the NBA. And if you say, if you were just going to finish that sentence with a blank, like, wow, I've played my whole life. I can't believe I'm playing in blank. It's Madison Square Garden. It's not, it's not American Airlines Arena or anything like that. I guess if you're a West Coast guy, you can make a Staples Center argument. I guess that's my what to watch for in the Utah game is Donovan Mitchell. He's been taking a lot of shots and he's not a great shooter. So, hey, if you're looking for something, if he's trying to have his Madison Square Garden moment, he could easily. I don't want to rip on the kid. A lot of guys like him, but he could put up a 3 for 15 type night pretty easily. That being said, it goes the other way. It could be a long night for the Knicks. So that's my insider information, which really isn't inside or information, but that's what I got.
So I've been going into pretty much the last few weeks just thinking, who is Frank going to match up with? Who am I going to get to see him defend? And like, what's going to happen? And, the possibility of Donovan Mitchell. And then I got my eye on Toronto and Kyle Lowry because, Kyle Lowry is a very physical player. And that's been the thing with Frank is like he's 19, so he's not, completely developed. So I'm going to be interested to see how he defends Kyle Lowry.
And my parting shot, what to watch for this week, or what to hope you don't see this week, is Kristaps flailing. We don't want to talk about it, but we see it. Yeah. He's just trying to get to the line, which you respect. But Kristaps, do it the right way. The thing we loved about Melo is that Melo got destroyed and never got a foul call for him. And we love that
about him.
I loved it. He took it like a
loved
man.
It about him, hated about the refs.
Yeah, hated about the refs. Best part of Melo was every time he got hit in the head, his headband would move, and then he would just play like that for the rest of the possession. And be like, "Hey, ref, I got fouled, and here's the proof."
Look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm gonna cop out a little bit. So I know we're week to week here, but yeah, the Knicks November is pretty gnarly. We've got Cleveland, Utah, at Toronto, Clippers, Toronto, at Atlanta, at Houston, versus Portland, versus Miami. That's the rest of November. So, I mean, Portland, Houston, Toronto, Clippers, Toronto, Utah, Cleveland. I mean, that's a lot of playoff teams. So I'm going to cop out and say, well, if they go 3-0 this week, I'll freak out. How about that? I'll be on that. But I think by the end of November, we're going to have a much better idea of what this Knicks team really is.
All right. Sounds good.
Like
we didn't
that?
have a single Stranger Things reference this podcast, and I'm a little disappointed.
Wow. That's Greg. The fans are going to have their eyes on you, just being honest.
I've said before, not to anybody. I posted on Facebook one time, but we're probably not friends with anybody. I said, this is either the best Knicks podcast or the worst Stranger Things podcast out there.
Either way, we'll take it. So yeah, any final things? You guys good?
Think I'm good, baby. Go Knicks.
All right, go Knicks. If you're listening, thank you. We really appreciate it. Subscribe, download. We do the post-game write-ups. Follow us on Twitter, Talking Knicks. We've got John Boy doing the live gift game. He's really been killing it with that. It's almost more entertaining because he doesn't have a great grasp of basketball, so it kind of pulls away from basketball a little bit, which is a lot of fun. The Kristaps stare down was good, and I don't know if I fully showed you guys, but I'm all in on talking UConn. I know that's not the most transitive for this fan base. There will be a little bit there, but hey, if you like UConn Huskies or you just weirdly like hearing me talk, I'm talking Huskies this season. So we appreciate it, guys. Let's go Knicks, go Huskies, go Yanks. So